What is up, YouTube? KidMoto22 here, back talking to you again today. Thought I would start today's video with just a kind of a discussion about, learning a little bit about yourself while riding. Maybe some things that you didn't know before. Certainly I did. I had an opportunity about 2 weeks ago to go on a moto camping trip with Great Egret, and it was a really good experience, and it was an opportunity for me to test what it was going to be like for me to do a full day of riding, 350 plus miles. So let's get after it and discuss this. Alright everybody, welcome back. So like I was saying before, I had an opportunity to go moto camping. My first opportunity moto camping, first time camping actually in 20 years, so it was really a great experience. Went to a state park in Minnesota, about 350 miles from where I live, and so to meet Great Egret at the park, I was going to be leaving at about 6:30 in the morning, and I really needed to test what my skills were going to be and my ability to ride long distance. I haven't really ridden a long distance as a rider in well over 20 years. As a passenger, I had done many distance trips, but as a rider, I had, really the last few years I'd used my bike more of an opportunity to commute. Certainly when I had my Sportster, that's what I was using it for, to commute back and forth to work. And since getting this bike, the opportunity to do some moto camping and to do some longer trips was really more realistic for me. And so I took the opportunity to do some moto camping. And when you get out on a trip and you've gotten that first 80 to 100 miles under your belt, you stop, you take a rest, and you really start to think, evaluate your ability to do long distance riding. I think, for me at least, that just kind of 80 to 100 miles without stopping was really the gauge for me for how the rest of my ride, the rest of my day was going to go. Now, this wasn't an average day by any stretch of the imagination. It was the hottest day of the year that we had. By 10 o'clock in the morning, it was well into the mid 80s, heading to above 90 that day. So I knew a large portion of my ride that day was going to be really quite warm. And so I had to really evaluate how I was going to ride and making sure to stay hydrated. That was a really huge thing to prevent dehydration, which happens incredibly fast when you're riding long distances. The sun beating down kind of evaporates the sweat off you pretty quickly, and you can get dehydrated and really not even know it. So I really took that opportunity to rehydrate myself at every stop, and I found out that especially on a hot day, which fatigues you quite a bit more, that a 350 mile day was definitely in my wheelhouse. Now, I wasn't sure. I plan on going to the Midwest Moto Meetup, and if you guys don't know about the Midwest Moto Meetup, head over to greategret.com and you can check the link on his website for the Midwest Moto Meetup. So that's going to be in Illinois, Southern Illinois, and that trip itself is 900 miles away from my home, and so for me to make that in 2 days, I needed to be able to do, I'll need to be able to do 450 plus, and so I needed to know certainly that 350 was in my wheelhouse, and I wanted to experience moto camping. I had not done motorcycle camping in, like I said, well over 20 years, and wanted to gain that experience. And so if you had an opportunity to check out my Instagram, you'd see my bike fully loaded and packed down, kind of ready for the trip, which was great. I didn't know everything I was going to need, so I packed everything I thought I would need, and I think I did a good job packing. I don't really feel like I overpacked. I wore everything I brought. I used everything I brought. Got an opportunity to use the cooking gear that I purchased, which was really kind of cool. I didn't know if I was going to have an opportunity to do that. The bugs were really, really bad. This area of Minnesota has had quite a bit of rain and flooding in the rivers, and so the bugs were extremely bad. And so for us to cook there was really pretty difficult. We did not have much of an opportunity to cook there for the first couple days. The third day we were there, I should say, no, it was the third day that we were there, or second day we were there, second full day we were there. We did cook breakfast that morning. About mid-morning it rained, so we hunkered down in our tents for a few minutes. There was a break in the rain, and we took off and headed into town. Hung out at a Starbucks, charged everything up that we needed to charge. When the weather broke again, we went to a store and really bought some supplies for a really nice big meal. Made a meal at the campground, porterhouse steaks and vegetables, and that was a really, really great opportunity for for a good, kind of good campground meal cooked over a fire, which was really nice. And that was probably the hardest part, is that I was all in for the full kind of camping experience and cooking outside, and really spending as much time doing kind of that as we could. The gnats were really, really unbearable, flying in your nose and mouth and ears, and to the point where eating the first few days there was really pretty difficult. It cooled down the third day, and we got an opportunity to do that, so that was great. I learned some valuable lessons on this trip. I found out for sure that sleeping on the ground is completely out of my wheelhouse now. I learned that for sure. Not necessarily sleeping in a tent, but sleeping on the ground for sure. The first night I was there, I tried the sleep pad and to sleep on the ground, and that was not in the cards for me anymore. I tried it one night. I was pretty sore, and I did not get a very restful night's sleep. So the next day we did head to town, and I bought an air mattress, which was a saving grace for me, because sleeping on the ground was not going to happen. So, but sleeping on the air mattress is fine. So that was good. And I'm definitely going to do it some more. I think I'm going to get into market for. I have a small kind of one. They call it a two-person tent, but there's no way you can get two people into it. But I have a small tent now that's great for kind of single-person moto camping. But I'm interested now in kind of getting out there and getting a larger tent that would be good for my daughter and I to ride and go camping. I'd like to take her out and give her an opportunity to experience that. That would be definitely a lot of fun to take her out and have her experience that. And so far she's only ridden about I think about 60 to 70 miles, kind of straight, non-stop. She's been a trooper though, so I think that if we took our time on a long day distance traveling, I'm fairly certain that that she would do well. I know that it would require quite a few more breaks for her. Just I think the fatigue riding on the back of a motorcycle when you're a kid, and maybe even some of the boredom for her, I'm not sure, would definitely set in. So taking breaks would be necessary without a doubt. It's good to get out and ride today. It's been not the greatest weather most recently to ride, so this has been a really good day to get out and spend some time on the bike. But let me know in the comments below if you've learned anything on your first time out distance riding, and what you learned about yourself on those trips. I know for me it was a great opportunity. It was a great learning experience to get out and really put some miles down and feel the challenge of putting in 300 plus miles in a day, because that's not for everybody. I mean, and truly I didn't know if it was going to be for me, and so I needed to know that. I needed to learn that without a doubt. And I did, and I did. I learned it was definitely something that I liked and I enjoyed, and you use the appropriate amount of brakes. Positioning was definitely a big thing for me. Having the highway pegs on my bike down here, and using those to change the multiple positions of my legs, my knees, my hips. That was really what allowed me to spend as much time on the bike as I could, because I could change positions so many times, and I found out also on the trip that riding in much hotter weather, so 90 plus weather, is really much more difficult than riding in, say, 70 plus weather. My ride home, so I went out there on a Friday, and it was, like I said, in the 90s. Came back on a Monday. On the Monday, I left about the same time. The biggest difference was in the morning. It was about in the 50s, I would say, low 50s, 51, 52 degrees. So on a motorcycle, I was fully geared up, leather chaps, jacket, gloves, and so it was a little bit chilly, but that was also a little bit refreshing comparatively to riding when it was 90 plus degrees. So on my way home, making virtually the exact same ride that I had done on Friday. Friday I did it with 5 stops. On my way home, I did that exact same ride with 2 stops. So having a larger capacity fuel tank, obviously, compared to a Sportster is, was one of the things that made that possible, for sure. And then the cooler weather. On my way home, it was much less fatiguing in the cooler weather, and actually turned out to be quite a nice ride home. By the time I got home that day, I think it was about 72 when I rolled into my house. Again, 350 or so miles, and I made that trip with 2 stops in 6 hours. So you do the math. I was cruising on my way home without a doubt, and it was good though. I stopped for basically like a half of a peanut butter cookie and a cup of coffee at my first stop, and a fuel stop, and then the second fuel stop was water and fuel and you know, a bathroom break. And I just, the rest of the time was just kind of on the, you know, on highway or interstate all the way home. And so I'm fairly, I would say, more than fairly, I would say I'm very confident that I'll be able to do 450 in a day, because I'm going to have to do, to get to the Midwest Moto Meetup, MMM, I'm going to have to do 2 days of that back to back. So that's also going to definitely be a challenge. So I fully intend on, you know, besides my commutes back and forth to work, and those really are not comparable. I mean, they're 30 miles one way. It's, you know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes at the most with traffic. But when I get an opportunity to do 2 days back to back like that, it's definitely gonna be more taxing for sure. So in preparation of that, I'm gonna try to spend some time, you know, doing some weekends where I do, you know, back to back 100+ miles, 200+ miles, just to, you know, just like a runner would, get your, you know, kind of get your body in shape, and to get my mind right, and really get, you know, kind of moving in that direction. So the funny thing is that, you know, more than one motovlogger has mentioned, you know, wind therapy, you know, why we ride, that kind of stuff. And I had mentioned on Great Eagert's channel, and also made a post on Tony Cox's channel about this thing that I like to call the space between. I didn't come up with that phrase. That's obviously a Dave Matthews song, but the space between is what I like to call, or what I like to find when I'm riding. And for me, what that really means is, it's after you get on your bike and you ride long enough that you've kind of processed the bad out, right? You've made it through all of the stress, the ugliness, the things that are bothering you maybe, or whatever. You made it through all that stuff, and you get to that kind of that spot, that sweet spot, you know, where you're really not thinking about much of anything. You're feeling the flow of the bike, the machine beneath you. You're feeling the wind, the elements, you know, the vibration. You're hearing the sound of the bike. You know, maybe you're listening to music, maybe you're not, but you find that sweet spot, that spot where all else melts away. That's the space between for me. That's the time where it all melts away, and I find the greatest kind of, I don't even, you know, relief isn't even a right word. That's the greatest freedom and peace on a motorcycle for me, is that spot. And riding on that trip, on that 350 miles, really allowed me to get there and stay there for a long time. You know, maybe even like 100+ miles, especially on the way home, on my trip back, because that was really, you know, 6 hours and 2 stops. I spent, you know, 2 hours plus at a time on the bike with no break. And so that really allowed for a full opportunity for that to really sink in, for you to really get into that zone and really, you know, really feel the full effect of what it's like to just completely wind down on your bike, wind out everything. And I was completely and totally at peace with that, and it felt great to have an opportunity to find it and to do it and to kind of remain in that state. And so yeah, that was really a great thing. I probably learned more for myself about the moto camping experience and about that kind of process for me than I did about finding that space between. I had been in that headspace and you know, many times on a bike. Opportunity to rip a little bit, it's pretty nice. Yeah, I had been in that space many times before on a bike, but not for that great period of time. So, but the moto camping is really probably where I learned the most about myself. And one of the things I discussed with Great Egret was, you know, attitude is everything when you go into a new experience like that. I mean, I went into that experience thinking, hey, you know, I'm all in. I'm going to enjoy this for what it is, for all that it is, and really spent as much of that time as I could living in the moment of that experience. And a big shout out, a huge shout out to Great Egret Joe. If you don't know who he is, I mean, I'm sure if you follow me, you follow him, you know who he is. He really was a catalyst for the moto camping trip, and made a lot of it possible for both of us, finding the location, making the reservation. And it was a really great opportunity to meet somebody that I looked up to as a moto vlogger, but also who I had gotten to know on a personal level, and can now truthfully call my friend, and that feels really good. But a big shout out to Joe for being the catalyst for that moto camping trip. So, and if you're out there and if you're wondering if moto camping is for you, you know, throw some comments, you know, ask me about it, my experience, what it was like, and I'll hit you back up, because I had not been camping, like I said, in 20 years, and I wouldn't call myself a camper either, but this experience really opened my eyes to just another avenue, another way you can experience something new and something really fantastic on a motorcycle. So that's really what I wanted to bring to you guys today, is just give you guys a little bit of an insight into you know, a trip that I took a couple weeks ago, and you know, get out there, get on your bike, ride it long distance if you haven't. Learn something about yourself, because I did, and it was fantastic. And I would recommend that anybody that has an opportunity to get out there and ride and learn something about themselves should do that, because it is an opportunity that not everybody has. And if you're a rider, it's an opportunity that you should definitely take. So that's about all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting if you do. And so this is if you like the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you know when I'll be uploading the content. This is Kid Moto. I'm out.